Jamaica. The air hangs thick with the scent of burning cane. A plantation thrives on the backs of the enslaved. And at its heart stands a widow. Her name? Annie Palmer. But who was she? A vengeful witch, as the legends claim, or a woman shaped by the cruelty of the world she inherited? To unravel her story, we must look beyond the legends of her crimes and delve into her complexities. Originally named Annie Mae Patterson, Annie's origins are a tapestry of colliding worlds. Born to an English mother and Irish father, she spent her childhood in Haiti, where her parents had moved. They were lured by the fleeting prosperity of the island nation. By day, she played in the sun-drenched gardens of her family's estate. By night, she heard whispers of the Haitian Revolution, the enslaved rising up, butchering their masters, forging the first Black Republic. That tension between privilege and rebellion would haunt her forever. Tragedy struck early, as Haiti's revolution spiraled into chaos, and Annie's parents succumbed to yellow fever. Her nanny, a woman steeped in the rituals of voodoo, took her in and became her guardian. Annie was a striking young woman, petite, with a delicate frame, long flowing hair, and piercing brown eyes that contrasted sharply with her pale, creamy skin. Under her nanny's care, Annie learned to harness the power of her beauty, wielding her wit and charm to navigate the world around her. Was it here, in the candlelit chambers of her mentor's home, that she first discovered the thrill of wielding power over others? The records of her early life are scarce, but the legends that have grown up around her are unmistakable. Whispers of a young woman who made a pact with forces beyond her control and was forever changed by the encounter. Annie sold her soul at the crossroads. The Loa spirits marked her as their own. As Haiti's hard-won independence succumbed to instability, Annie fled to Jamaica, a land of sugar, wealth, and suffering. With no fortune to her name and no protector to shield her, she navigated the treacherous landscape of colonial society, where even white women were treated as property. Annie wielded her beauty like a blade, cutting through Jamaican high society with calculated charm. She ensnared the attention of John Palmer, the wealthy owner of Rose Hall Estate, a sprawling sugar empire built on 2,000 acres of land and the labor of hundreds of enslaved Jamaicans. Palmer, smitten by her charms, proposed marriage, and Annie made a choice. She accepted, donning the mask of a society wife with ease. Silk gowns draped her frame, jewels glittering like frozen tears. But beneath the facade of luxury and elegance, Annie's true nature remained, waiting to be unleashed. This was no love story. Their marriage was a transaction. His name for her ambition, his power for her cunning. They married in 1820, and by 1827, John Palmer was dead. During their marriage, Annie grew tired of her husband and sought other amusement, taking male slaves for romps in her bedroom, including her favorite, an Obeah man named Taku. Her lust grew until it could no longer be hidden. Her husband caught her in the act of adultery and whipped her with a riding crop. Enraged by this humiliation, Annie vowed she would take her revenge, and never again would any man have any control over her. When the moment was right, she slipped poison into his coffee and killed him. After John's death, she moved quickly to take over the Rose Hall estate. Here was a woman who understood the rules of her world. In a colony built on violence, mercy was a death sentence. Power, after all, is rarely given. It's taken. Annie's reign began with a funeral and ended in myth. Over the next 4 years, Rose Hall became a theater of horrors. She ruled the estate with a sadist's glee. Enslaved workers were flogged for dropped tools, locked in dungeons beneath the house for disobedience, forced to wear spiked collars, or killed for prayers whispered in their native tongue. Survivors claimed she stood on the rear balcony, sipping wine as the whip cracked below. In her wake, 3 husbands dead, vanished lovers, a trail of bodies buried by the sea. But let's be clear, there are no first-hand accounts of Annie's crimes, no trial transcripts or damning letters, just stories passed through generations like a cursed heirloom. The person closest to Annie throughout these years was an enslaved man named Taku, though he was no ordinary slave. An Obeah man, a spiritual practitioner of African-derived rituals and herbal magic, he wielded power feared by both the enslaved and the enslavers. Annie eventually freed him, not out of mercy, but obsession. He became her lover, visiting her bedroom nightly, and was by all accounts loyal to her. Annie married twice more after John Palmer, each union shorter and bloodier than the last. Her second husband, a wealthy merchant, lasted only 2 years. While some say Annie enlisted Taku's help in dispatching her first husband, John Palmer, she sought no such assistance in killing her second. When that marriage began to fail, she fed him a deadly cocktail of poison and blade, stifling his final cries with stab wounds. Her third marriage lasted mere months. This time, with the help of Taku, she strangled her husband in his sleep, then summoned workers to haul his body through secret passages to a grave by the shore. Those same men were later flogged to death, ensuring their silence. After burying her third husband, Annie set her sights on the plantation's English bookkeeper, Robert Rutherford. But Rutherford, wary of her reputation, spurned her advances. Annie, described as having an eye for a fine-looking man and a rage for the possession of anyone she fancied, became increasingly irate as Rutherford repelled her overtures. Instead, Rutherford courted Millicent, a young enslaved woman, and Taku's granddaughter. Enraged, Annie retaliated with voodoo's darkest arts and put a curse on Millicent, which caused her to painfully wither and die. Millicent's death snipped the last threads of loyalty. For Taku, the Obeah man who had once shared Annie's bed and her crimes, her cruelty had finally eclipsed her allure. The enslaved, long silenced by fear, now whispered of vengeance. Filled with rage, Taku sought retribution. He gathered a group of slaves and they stormed the great house. Some stood guard to keep any would-be saviors at bay, while Taku himself went to Annie's room and strangled her to death. And so the reign of the White Witch of Rose Hall came to a violent end, her legacy forever condemned to the haunting whispers of the plantation she once reigned over with ruthless authority. After Annie's murder, the perpetrators debated how to dispose of her body. Some clamored to toss her remains, like the Jezebel of old, a biblical punishment for wicked women, into the ravine below Rose Hall. In the end, it was decided she would be buried in a deep grave and a ritual performed to ensure her spirit would never rise again. They sought to bind her soul and performed an Obeah ritual: salt to purify, iron nails to imprison, and incantations older than the plantation itself. But the binding faltered, and Annie's spirit, already steeped in the occult, slipped free through the ritual's fractured seams. As for Taku, Annie's lover and accomplice, having been blamed for the binding's failure, he disappeared. Some say he was hunted down by Annie's lingering allies. Others claim he fled to the mountains, where he died cursing her name. But death was not the end of Annie Palmer. Some spirits refused to stay buried. Decades after her violent demise, Annie's spirit continues to haunt Rose Hall, its cursed corridors still echoing with phantom footsteps. Caretakers hear screams echoing from empty rooms, and visitors flee in terror, claiming to have seen her pale specter riding a black horse across the estate grounds. Some even believe she is responsible for the mysterious deaths of those who took over the property after her reign of terror. Next time on Cursed Latitudes, we descend into the shadows of Rose Hall, unearth its legacy of restless souls and centuries-old violence, and step into its haunted transformation, now open to the public, where guided tours retrace Annie's tyranny.